I have a feeling that setting up this angle plate is going to be way harder than it really should be. Things usually turn out that way for me. I probably used Loctite to hold these studs in, so hopefully I can get them out. Alright, so I kind of figured out what I'm going to do. Hopefully this works. I'm going to drill and tap the bottom of the angle plate in two places, about here and here. And then I'm going to use some Allen bolts, drill and countersink them in so that they thread into the angle plate and hold it in. And then on this side, I'm going to use the existing threaded holes and drill some holes through here to hold it down on this side. Hopefully this works and I don't just ruin my mill, or my lathe rather. Set this to 0. And then we're gonna plunge into this 320 thousandths deep and hope I don't ruin my lathe. Okay, let's do this. The moment of truth, does it fit in? Yes, but not deep enough. I need to switch back to the other one. All right, that slides, that's good news. And then I'll move it to there. We're 1 thou. All right, so that means in order to make the correction, I need to move about 1/2 thou on here. Oh, this is the basic idea. It's very much not finely tuned yet. But yeah, I will be able to turn on my lathe, flip the lever, and boring will happen. I'm going to try a few different setups and see if I can come up with something that's quicker and more clever than this. I might actually try using some of my milling mounts to figure out how to attach to the plate from the bottom side. Now that I have the cylinder test fit onto the angle plate, I need to see if I can indicate the center of the bore. Obviously, it's no good having it mounted on there if I can't get the bore perfectly centered, because yeah, you don't want your pistons running all wonky. So now I have to try to figure out how to do that. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm now going to try to show you guys what this is and how it works. I've never actually used one before. I've used all sorts of different methods, but I decided to get the proper tool for centering this bore. So let's open it up. This is the main body of the gauge here. The nice thing about this tool compared to a regular dial indicator is that when you turn it on, the dial indicator itself doesn't move, or when you move the needle. Anyway, I'll just show you. When I turn the lathe on, you can see that the indicator stays stationary, and so that I don't have to hold it with my hand, it actually comes with this arm. So this is how it's supposed to be set up. I now need to turn the lathe on in reverse, and we will watch to see how much the needle moves. As you can see, it's about 1/4 of a thousandths, which means it's probably the chuck that has the run out and not the tool. But anyway, that's way closer than I expected to be. I'm very happy with that. What I'm going to do now is take this tool out, take my chuck off, and put my 4-jaw chuck in with the cutting tool that I made, and cross my fingers and hope for the best. All right. I've got the tool poking out. Let's turn it on and engage it and see what happens. That's not gonna work. That is a lot of right. Holy old fuck. It is now several hours later, and I've tried different speeds, different feed rates, different tools, different tool positioning, different lubrication, running it dry with, all sorts of different things. And I've finally come up with something that is working fairly well for me. And what I'm doing is I'm using a tool something like this, but instead of using it in a standard sort of way where you'd be cutting with it like this or like this, I'm actually using it as a shear tool. So kind of more like a pair of scissors. So I'm actually running the tool completely sideways inside of the bore. If you look at the tool here, you can see it's actually running almost in line with the bore. It's probably about 10 degrees tilted. So basically when the tool rotates, it spins around this way, and it's actually shaving the material like that instead of just peeling a piece off. The good news is that I think that I have it figured out and it is going to work. The two bad newses are that it is going to take very long, and also I damaged this sleeve. It's gonna come out, but I damaged this sleeve trying to run it on high speed. I was running it on fairly high speed and taking very light passes, and it was working really well, and I was about to turn the camera on and say, oh my god, I've figured it out. This is gonna work. I'll just run it on high speed. And then I hit a spot that I had a little chatter before. And as soon as it hit that spot, it started vibrating, and it completely just, it was bad. It broke the tool, and it chewed up the liner really bad. So I've got most of that out. Some of it still has to come out, but I'm gonna run it through one pass now, just to show you guys kind of what it's running like. It sounds kind of sketchy because it's, interrupted cut. There's ports when it starts, and then it goes smooth for a little while, and then it hits the transfers, and then it hits the exhaust port, and then it goes up into the top where it's solid and smooth. But it does sound kind of sketchy, but it's actually working pretty good right now. So let's run it through one run. See there, it's going to hit the transfer ports pretty soon. You can actually see the cylinder is moving a little bit. My lathe is not very sturdy. I wouldn't recommend doing this unless you've got a real mill like a Bridgeport, or that's a mill. I wouldn't try doing this unless you have a nice sturdy lathe, because this one, yeah, the cross slide just doesn't have enough meat to it. You can see everything flexing around. But as you can tell, it's cutting pretty decent. Going through the transfer ports now, so it sounds really bad. Chatter at the end is because there's marks. That's where I hit the high-speed wobble earlier. So it's still cutting that out. So yeah, it's definitely not perfect, and it's definitely not fast, but it will eventually get the job done. For anyone who's wondering, I'm able to take 2.5 thousandths per pass. So 5 thousandths off the total diameter. Yeah, that's about it. I'm going to keep doing this, and hopefully my hone comes in any day and I can finish this up. I've been multitasking. I'm over there trying to shape a piece of exhaust, and I've been running this in the background. I got pretty close to where I want it to be, roughing out the cylinder. So the bore is, let's see, to 82. I'm going to bore them out to 83 millimeters. And the bore is 82.7 something. Yeah, depends how you measure it, but 82.74 is what the bore is. And so I've got about 1/4 of a millimeter left to go to get to 83 millimeters. And the piston, I assume, will be 83, and then I'll need about 5 thousandths clearance, which is only about 2.5 clearance on each side. I'm not gonna lie, it's far from perfect. Not quite as good as I thought it was, but it's not as bad as it could have been. Turned out better than the last time when I did it on my mill. You can see there's some chatter marks there, which is why I left about 3/4 of a millimeter to go that I'm going to do with the rigid hone. Pretty sure I know what it is now. Yep. Instructions for operating the cylinder hone. Some different stones. A bar. A piece of wood with some sandpaper on it. A brush. Some more stones. And the cylinder hone. Okay, so my bore is 3 inches, 66.5. I did a bunch of boring off camera, and I also did a bunch of honing off camera. Nobody wants to sit through all that, and I had to pay very close attention because if I honed out just a little too much, then I would have had to put it back into the lathe and do more boring, and I definitely don't want to do that. So there are a few scratches in the bottom of the bore where I drug the tool out. I wasn't careful when I was pulling the tool out because honestly I was thinking that I was going to have to do more boring. So when I'm boring out the other 2 cylinders, I'll have to be more careful to not do that, so that it makes my life in honing a lot easier. Because of the fact that there was scratches in the cylinder that I made pulling the tool out, I'm walking a very fine line between getting rid of those scratches and boring the cylinder out too big. And although I could go to 84 or up to 84 millimeters on the piston, I'd rather just go to 83. Now what I need to do is order some pistons and hope and pray that they're actually 83 millimeters and that they are not a little bit undersized, because this cylinder now is 82.97 millimeters. And I'm going to be able to bore a little bit more to give myself the clearance, but I'm not going to do that until I have the actual pistons and I measure them. I'm not 100% sure which project I'll be showing footage of next. I have been doing a little bit more work on the 650 exhaust system project. I've also cut out a few templates for the X2 supercharger manifold, and I got a little bit of practice on the exhaust system now, so I might be doing some fabrication, some welding on that. I also have been preparing the 1100 exhaust system for welding because I did break one hole in it, and I want to reinforce the mount so that the exhaust doesn't break off once I mount it on the ski. Anyway, I'm not sure which one of those projects that I will be showing footage of next, but I am pretty sure that it's going to be exciting for me to do, and hopefully exciting for you guys to watch. That is going to do it for this one. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.